let's. Yamar, we're on commandment number 7, right?
Yes.
Thou shalt not steal.
Yes.
All right. That one we didn't cover.
No.
No.
All right. Thou shalt not steal. Have you ever had anyone steal anything from you? And if anyone has, you know what a terrible feeling it is to have something that belonged to you be stolen. Okay? You know the emptiness that is felt. The problem is that a lot of times we identify with what someone has done to us, but we don't fully grasp the pain of what has happened when we've done it to somebody else. Okay? If it isn't yours, leave it alone. If it hasn't been gifted to you, leave it alone. Otherwise, it's not yours. So if it's not yours, if you take it without the permission or the gift of the other person, you're stealing it. Okay? Now, that's the simple steal. Now, what also falls here is every time that and it doesn't happen as much now, but it used to happen a lot before, when people would buy a VHS and make a copy of the movie, and then make another copy of that movie, and the poor guy who sold the first one will never be able to sell another one because everybody's making copies. That's stealing. That was not supposed to happen. Okay, so same thing with CDs. You know, you bought one, and then you burn 2, and then you burn 3, and then you burn 4. Man, it just doesn't stop. Well, that's stealing because we didn't actually buy it. Okay, we didn't actually acquire it the way that it should have been acquired. Okay, so if you see 2 pens on the table and you take one, you stole one. If you see 2 pens on the table and you ask, "Can I have one?" and the guy says no, and you take one, you stole one. Okay? If you do 2 pens on the table and then you decide you like to have one, the guy's got 2, but man, I ain't got no pen and he's got 2. If he doesn't give it, it's still his. Okay? And we're going to talk about the deadly sins later, the things that lead us into that thought wave where we start to justify sin, and those deadly sins are those behaviors that lead us to that. Okay, so thou shalt not steal. If it ain't yours, leave it alone. It's simple. All right. If you're cutting somebody out, you're stealing. Okay. All right. So that's thou shalt not steal. Number 8. Thou shalt not lie. Okay? Be truthful. God in Jesus in the scriptures tells he was speaking to the crowds one time, and he tells them, he says, "Let your yes be yes and your no be no." Don't need to swear by God, just be truthful. And so people will know you tell the truth. The problem is that a lot of times we think that the white lies are okay. And they're not. A lie is a lie, whether you want to color it white, gray, or black, or whatever, red, whatever. A lie is a lie. Be truthful. There's a beautiful passage or a quote that says, "He who tells the truth does not need to remember anything." You guys ever run into to an individual who lies, and when you catch him on the lie, he starts coming up with another lie to cover that lie, and then he covers up with another lie, and he covers up with another lie, and it never ends because he's got to constantly remember that he's been lying, so he's got to make the story become bigger and bigger and bigger. I worked at a place. And I'm gonna tell you, and I'm not gonna tell you where, but I worked at a place. I had an employee who worked under me, and one day he comes in and he figures he's gonna ask for a raise, and he tells me that his wife is pregnant and that he needed more money. I had to believe what he was saying, and because it was a righteous request, I wanted to help out the family, and so I granted him his raise. Problem was that I haven't seen the wife. I haven't seen no conversations about the baby, and I leave it at that. I started doing the math, and it's been 10 months. I haven't heard anything about no baby. So I asked. I says, "Hey, how's your wife doing?" I said, tomorrow we're going to Jackson, and she's going to give birth. So okay, great. The day comes, the day after, he shows up for work. And I said, "What are you doing here?" He had forgotten that he had told me that I was giving birth the next day. So I said, "What are you doing here?" He said, "Why?" He says, "Didn't you tell me your wife was giving birth today?" He said, "Oh, yeah, but she doesn't need me to be there." No, you need to get that. You need to go. You need to get out of here, man. You need to be with your wife. Get out of here. Go be with your wife. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I hear nothing. So he comes into work, and now he's got a dilemma, because he said the wife was giving birth Friday, and of course, first thing everybody asks for is, "Let me see the pictures." "Oh, I got no pictures. The camera broke." "Oh, the camera broke. Here, borrow." And then one guy shows up and he says, "Here, I'll lend you my camera. Bring me pictures." And he says, "No, I really don't want to take pictures because the wife says she doesn't want me taking pictures of the baby and sharing them at work." Okay? We leave it at that, and we kind of figure that no, somebody has not been truthful. The following Thursday, the owner of the company just happens to be walking in front of my office and runs into him in the hallway. And he says, "Hey, your wife is about due, right?" He was in and out of the office. He really wasn't keeping count. He just knew that the wife was supposed to have been pregnant. And he says, "Isn't your wife pregnant? She should be due any minute, or did you guys have the baby already?" Now, they're having this conversation right outside of my office. And he says to the owner, "She's giving birth tomorrow." I says, "Dude, this woman is going to be the first woman in the world who has given birth in the same month twice. Unbelievable." Well, it just kept getting on, and it just one lie after another lie, and after a while, everybody caught on that, hey, man, there ain't no baby. There ain't no baby in the insurance. There's no baby. And eventually, he had to quit because he couldn't cover up the lies anymore. And so the important thing that we're reminded with the 8th commandment is to be truthful. It is better to deal with the consequences of truth than to have to explain the lies. So as you do your examination of conscience, when you go down the 10 commandments to see where I have moved away from the love of Christ, from the love of God, what has led me away from that? Don't let this ever get in the way. Be truthful. The sooner you deal with truth, as painful as that may be, the sooner you move on to the next chapter. Otherwise, you're spinning your wheels, going backwards and forwards, trying to always cover up what we've done wrong, what stories that we told. So, "Thou shalt not lie" keeps you to have peace of mind, and you won't have to worry about the tension about covering up that which you have lied about in the past. Okay? And if you ever
I
run
have a
into
question.
what's that?
I have a question, Deacon Tony.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's go back to the thou shall not steal.
Okay.
If I steal a pen, if you look at it, it's just a little not costly pen, I assume, maybe $1 or so. And I also steal maybe a gold watch or $1,000. How do they compare? And how do you go into confession when you think that you only did a little bit of stealing or maybe a big steal?
Right. See, Florida, I think that what we need to look at is, and I'm sure you have seen this in your years. I know I've seen it. Nobody ever goes to a life of crime by holding up a bank on their first time out. They usually start with little things, and they just keep getting better and better at it, and they believe they're getting away with all these things, and they keep pushing up, pushing until they get to the very top. And you're right. Is it where the penance is what will vary? The sin is still the sin. We stole, whether we steal $1 or whether we rob a bank. Okay, we are still guilty of the behavior that we stole from neighbor. Okay, we took from someone who had the right to have what they had, and we took it away from them, whether it was a pen or whether it was $100,000. Now, what will vary is when we confess that sin, then the priest may ask, how much did you steal? And then to that end, the consequence or the reparation will come into place as far as what penance we will have to serve, right? To make up for what we done. Now, if it's a whole lot easier to go back and give the individual whose pen we stole, give it back to him and say, I'm sorry, I took this and I shouldn't have taken it. And I have found people bringing stuff back to me that I didn't even know I was stolen. And for some reason they had this guilty conscience or whatever happened, brought a conversion to them, and they bring it. Wow, what honesty in this person, because I will feel more proud of someone who returns something that they stole than someone who never ever comes back to say sorry.
Okay,
So,
in that scenario, if a person after a certain period of time comes to you and admit that he stole that object to you, is the Lord gonna forgive you right there and then?
well, the individual may not forgive you, but you have done right by God.
Okay, because when we teach the young children, if they steal something, no matter how small, we usually make them go to the person and tell them that I'm sorry, I took this, I'm giving it back to you. So that's a proper way of, I know it's a good teaching process for the kids.
Yes, I would absolutely agree with that, Troy, because at the end of the day, it may seem like they may have to take this walk of shame. I think it's much more than that. It's a walk of pride that you have done the right thing, that even though you did something wrong, you were able to fix it. And I think there's a lesson in that in itself. To a young child, absolutely. Now, kids do that. I can't tell you that I didn't do that at some point in my life. Who knows? I probably did. I remember a lot of stuff, but some of the stuff I don't always remember. But I'm sure that there must have been time when I was a child that I was tempted, and I gave in to temptation.
Mhm.
I can't remember ever being caught, because then I would have remembered, right? And that
Mhm.
take the child back to apologize and give something back.
Mhm.
That stays here, and that stays
Mhm.
here
Yeah.
forever.
And it's so good to see also that you have two kindergarten, and then somebody saw something, and then it creates between the two kids. It created a disagreement or something between the two kids. And once you put them together, it seemed to be it has become a nice point to get together again and become more friendly to each other.
And lesson learned as children will be a lesson that will be practiced as adults.
Yeah, as they get older. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Hey, listen, we agreed to disagree, or I owned what I did wrong. I apologize. And,
Yeah.
and instead of doing what a lot of in my Cuban culture, they whenever you do something wrong to me, I do the sign of the cross, and it's not a blessing, but I'm burying you for life. And that is wrong. That is wrong. Yeah, you're right. You
But
start
that is very true.
you
We
start
do too. We do too in the Philippines, because we were also under the Spanish rule for like 400 years. So, and Cuba was also discovered by the Spaniards. So we kind of have the same culture.
right. So when they do a big T, it's a good thing. But a little T, oh, you've just been thrown to the curb, right?
Yeah. Thank you, Deacon Tony.
Yeah, you're quite welcome. All right. So thou shalt not lie. Always be truthful, guys. It'll help you enjoy life a whole lot more. All right. 9th commandment. Thou shalt not covet your neighbor's wife. Okay. Now, I want to make sure that we're all clear and we all know this. There are 10 commandments for men and women. Women hear this and going, okay, we only got 9, men have 10. No, when we say do not covet your neighbor's wife, means you're basically what it should have said was do not covet your neighbor's spouse, right? Anyone who does not belong to you, anything that the relationship of your neighbor with his spouse, you shall not get in the middle of that. Okay, so respect your neighbor's wife, husband, and do not get in the middle of that. And don't allow yourself to believe that, oh, we're just friends. Oh, we're just flirting. We're like that. No. The minute you start going down that slippery slope, you're going to find yourself going down the slippery slope. Okay? So remember to keep your distance. And I think that my wife had a beautiful way of putting it all the time. She said, couples hang around with couples, and single people hang around with single people. And that'll keep you out of trouble. And she was right. Okay. So once you are married, try to distance yourself from the single life so that you don't fall into this temptation. You know, we pray and lead us not from temptation, but deliver us from evil. Well, that's the intent. Don't put yourself in a position where you may pay the consequences of the current going one way and you going right with it. Okay? The 10th commandment, thou shalt not covet your neighbor's goods. Okay? And so you do not desire whatever your neighbor has. And when we say neighbor, it could be anyone outside of your household or anybody in your household. Whatever he owns, whatever he has, you don't make it your lively goal to acquire it, or the purpose of your life to be able to need it to the point that you stop living your life because you want to keep up, as they say in English, you want to keep up with the Joneses. Okay? You want to make sure that you are content with what you have. And once we go into the deadly sins, you're gonna see how all these things, man, absolutely make all the sense in the world. Because when we covet our neighbor's wife, we desire that we're going to go down an adulterous relationship sooner or later. When we desire our neighbor's goods, we will never ever be happy with what we have, because we always will be striving to be like him, to have what he has, to have what she has. If I don't have that purse, I need to have that purse. If I need to have, oh, she has those shoes, I need to have those shoes. And of course, you know that I'm around a lot of women when I can identify with that stuff, right? The purse and the shoes. Believe me, I know that in my household. But it's important. It's important that that we understand that be content with what you have. Be content with what the Lord has given you. And yes, you may want to strive for more, but never let it be the focal point of your life. All right? Acquire it if you can, find it, but don't let that take away from your ability to live, that you live for that. Okay? All right. So, do we have the 10 Commandments? Do you guys know it? Okay? Remember, nothing greater than our God. Do not take the Lord's name in vain. Keep the Sabbath holy. The 4th commandment, okay? Honor your mother and father. The 5th commandment, thou shalt not kill. 6th commandment. Anybody? All right. Do not have any adulterous thoughts. Be pure in your way to live your life. Thou shalt not steal. 8, thou shalt not lie. 9, thou shalt not covet your neighbor's wife. And 10, thou shalt not
Do not
covet
covet your neighbor's goods.
Okay. All right. So those 10 commandments, guys, are something that we and when we speak of them, we should get to a point where we know them personally. And because those are the things that we will judge ourselves in our love and the love of God through them. Because at the end of the day, I don't do or I don't commit those sins against the 10 Commandments because I don't want to lose the love of God. I don't want to hurt him. I don't want him to feel the pain because I chose the sin instead of being close to him. So I want to make sure I keep that relationship. And what you want to do is get into the habit of every night doing an examination of conscience. Go over the 10 Commandments. How would you lead your life today in those 10 Commandments? And if you find yourself that you have fallen in any of them, well, then that's a mortal sin. You're aware of it. Then go to confession as soon as you possibly can. Okay? And that's important because remember, mortal sin is that which keeps us away from God. And it would be a real shame if we die in a state of mortal sin because we chose to neglect the fact that we had moved away from God. Okay? Now, there are 3 things that mean the same, and these behaviors are what lead us into a mortal sin. Okay? As they are by themselves, they're venial sins. They lead us into sin. They wound us into a condition of possibly a mortal sin. But at the beginning, it is no more than a venial sin. But it's one that should be confessed only so that it creates awareness in us that these may lead to mortal sins. Now, they've had through the years, and this started like in the 4th century, where they discovered that there was a connection with these behaviors and people who were falling into sin. And so the church began to teach awareness of what we called at one time deadly sins. Now, the deadly sins always scared people, and so a lot of people didn't want to study them for what benefit would come from them. So they changed the name, and through the years, the names have changed 3 times. Now they're known as capital sins, but they were also known as cardinal sins. So cardinal sins, deadly sins, and capital sins, they're all the same, okay? There are 7 of them. Let me see if I can get them all written here. Of the deadly sins, and we're going to call them deadly because that's the term that I learned, and so I'm going to call them by what I learned. All right, deadly sins. The worst one is pride. Okay. The second is envy, and then we can go ahead and just list them out, but the first 2, the pride and the envy, are notorious for leading us into mortal sin. Okay, and we'll go over them in a few minutes. Let me just write them all out. We have lust. Let me see, lust. We have sloth, anger, avarice, avarice, and what was the other one? Gluttony. Okay. Now, these are the 7. If we were to take each and every one of them, or combine them, every one of them has to do with, and you can connect them to the 10 Commandments as mortal sins. Pride being the worst, because the person who is proudful can never ever recognize that they've made a mistake. They're so proud that the one thing that they need in order to overcome this, let me just write this here real quick. In order to overcome pride, you gotta be humble. So the ideal behavior is for us to become more humble. If we become humble in humility, we are diminishing the possibility of being proud. Okay? And when we're proud, here's the biggest mistake that we could possibly make. A proud person will never ever walk into a confession. They're too proud. I don't make mistakes. I don't need to do that. I. Everything is I. Okay? So pride, and if you want to self-check yourself, if every sentence you begin with is I, be careful. Because here, everything begins with a humble person will always speak using we. Incorporate. He's no longer self-centered. He's creating an awareness of the people around him. Okay? So pride, if there's one thing that we need to work on, and that's beginning with me, to destroy, we need to destroy pride by becoming more humble. Okay? Envy. Envy is always focusing on my, because my need of what he has, my desire to have what he has, my wanting, it's the envy. It's the person who lives and will never ever know happiness, will never know contentment, because or that this behavior will constantly lead you to desiring what somebody else has. Okay? So how do we destroy envy? Being thankful. Thankful. The more you say thank you, the more you say thank you, the less likely you are to spend time and emotion with envy, because you're being thankful that you received what you got. The person who's envious can never be thankful, because they want more and more. And now you gave me this, but I want that. And so this is the other behavior that combined will probably lead you into a mortal sin. That and anger, right? Because we go with this one and anger, you can cover all of them, all the 10 commandments. Okay? So lust, the desire of the flesh. Okay? We can look at the reality of what a marriage should be, a desire for one another. We're wired that way. But when this behavior becomes disorganized, we start to become animals, right? We don't behave with chastity. To recognize the divine in the intimacy between a man and a woman, when the two become one flesh. We follow the animal instinct to desire self-gratification. That's lust. When men or women, now even more so than men nowadays, from last article I read, fall into pornography, they try to live up to a standard that has got nothing to do with understanding that the two become one flesh, and appreciating that in this moment of intimacy, we are living the creation that God intended for man and women to be one flesh. When we fall here, and this is where you got to be careful, because lust, if in the way that if a woman dresses, if you are dressing in a particular way because you enjoy dressing, you like looking good, you like looking sharp, you enjoy taking care of yourself, you put so much work into the gym to be healthy. But when what you're doing in the gym is so that this curve looks better than that curve over there, your intentions are not to create to become one flesh. Your intention is to get attention. And so then you got to relook at this thing, because the lust that you're creating in yourself or creating in others is also affecting you, because now you're living to show instead of living to share. Right? There's a difference. Live to show and live to share are two totally different things. So got to be aware, okay, that this behavior, the lust, the desire for the flesh, the desire of attention of the flesh, got to be careful with that. Sloth, okay? I don't want to go to mass today. I'm tired. Okay? Oh, I won't pray tonight. I'll pray tomorrow. I'll pray 2 rosaries tomorrow. I won't pray tonight. Okay? That's sloth. When we start coming up with excuses of why we're not going to do something because we're tired. How do we overcome this? Be diligent. Be diligent. Get it done. Don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait for tomorrow. Make it happen today. A lot of times I have seen in my lifetime people who won't go visit the sick because I'm tired today. I'll see him tomorrow. I'll go visit him tomorrow. And then tomorrow is too late. And so this sloth, this desire of the body to not respond to a need, we have to overcome. We have to overcome. And so by being diligent, we're moving it. You know, one of the things that we're doing now in Lent, right? We're trying to let the body know that you're not going to tell me what we're going to do. I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. And one of the ways I'm going to prove it to you is I'm not going to eat no sweets. I'm not going to smoke cigarettes. I'm not going to drink wine. I'm not going to eat red meat. I'm not going to give up bread. Whatever. The intent is not so much to give up what you're giving up. The intent is for you to remember that you have the ability and the power to be able to control your body's desire. And so if the body says, oh, I'm tired, I'm going to just sit there and watch TV. And then the day goes by and you're just sitting in front of the TV, or you have the phone in your hand and all you're doing is just reading emails, the same ones over and over again, or the texting or the Instagram or the tweet, whatever. How much time are we losing there that we could be putting to a greater good? How much time could we be spending with the children? How much time could we have in conversations as a family? How much time can we take the opportunity to pray and not leave it for later when we're too tired, right? So the sloth is that behavior which keeps us from being able to achieve, for being able to do the will of God, okay? Anger. Now, we all know this one, right? And this is one that your Deacon Tony has to work on a lot. And the blowing off the head gasket in 1 minute to the next, right? You didn't even see it coming. It just got here quick. Now, what does it say? What does this give witness to those around me when I come across like this anger? It shoots everything that you've done in the past. It just wipes it away, because your anger, just as you build so much with compassion and love and charity, when your anger comes in, you destroy everything. And so everything that we had worked for is gone. Now, if we, as Flora was saying, if we then have the humility to be able to say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. I should have held it together. I own this. I apologize. I should have had more patience. Now you're building bridges. Otherwise, you're just destroying the neighborhood. So you got to make sure you keep in touch. You keep in touch with your anger, because we will only have one chance to apologize here. Because once we blow up, it always takes somebody, and it hurts somebody. And we may apologize to everybody who's here, but one person may have left. He never heard your apology, and he's the one who's going to remember your anger. And so we want to make sure that as we go through anger, we practice patience. You want to overcome anger? Practice patience. Practice patience. The more you practice patience, the less likely you are to fall into anger. It's easy to look at a situation and get caught up in the situation. And the more you grow in patience, the more you'll be able to see the pain in the person who's angry. And so you will understand his anger, because you have grown in patience to the point that you'll be able to see the pain that's bringing this anger out. Okay, so you will become more understanding. All right, avarice. Okay, that's the person who wants everything. You work and now you got the boat, but now it's not the boat. Now you need a bigger car. Now it's not the car. Now you need a motorhome. Now it's not the motorhome. Now you need to buy the house in the mountains. Now it's not the house in the mountains. You want to have 2 houses in the mountains. And so it just keeps piling and piling up. The person who suffers from this behavior, avarice, is a person that it's very likely he will never know joy, because once again, he's desiring the neighbor's goods, right? He wants to keep up with the Joneses. He's working so hard to keep up. He wants to have more and more, thinking that the more I get, the more I'm going to enjoy. And it's just the opposite. The more you have, the more you're going to have to work to keep what you have. And so less likely that you will enjoy what you have. And so how do we get over this desire of avarice, of greed? By being generous. The more we learn to give away, the less likely we're going to want to find joy by being greedy. The more that we come to learn about the joy that comes when we're able to give away that which God has given to us. Because at the end of the day, we've all been gifted by God. Everything we have has been a gift from God. We haven't done anything. Everything has been a gift to us. If we learn to be generous, we won't ever fall into this trap of avarice, of desiring the greed, right? Of wanting more and more and more to try to find happiness, when the only happiness will come when we can make other people happy. And when we give it away, then their joy becomes our joy. And that joy lasts. Okay? Now, gluttony. And this is for those of us who eat beyond where we need to eat. Okay? In the old days, and remember, these behaviors have been taught by the church since the 4th century. Okay? The kings would eat to the point to prove to their people in their kingdom that they were king. They would eat and eat and eat to the point that they would be so filled that they would throw up, and then go back and eat and eat and eat till they repeated that again. The sad part was that there were people in the kingdom who were dying of hunger. And here was the king, eating beyond what he needed, not thinking of those who didn't have to eat. And so, how do we overcome the gluttony? I would say, remember the hungry. If you remember the hungry, you'll be very unlikely to overeat for the sake of eating. Right? Now, I think it's Labor Day. Labor Day in New York, they have the hot dog eating contest. It's Memorial Day. It's Memorial Day or Labor Day. I don't remember. But they have this hot dog eating contest, and this one guy that can put down 100 hot dogs. And he will just stuff it in his mouth, and he just keeps eating, and he takes the bread and dumps it in water and eats. That's gluttony. We got people around the world who are hungry, and you're taking what God has given us and made a joke, a mockery of it. You haven't remembered the hungry when you've made gluttony a sport. Okay, so it's still around. It's still around. Not as bad as it was in the 4th century, but this hunger is definitely still around, and gluttony, unfortunately, is still with us. So these are what we have come to know as the cardinal sins, the deadly sins, the capital sins as we know them now. But these are the behaviors. These are the behaviors over here that will lead us to fall into mortal sin. And these are the virtues that will overcome them. And so the important thing that I want you to remember is that this exists and this exists. Which one of the two will we practice? Which ones are we going to be more aware of in the future? That is the intent. That was the intent of the church teaching this reality, so that we will not only know how we can fall into this negativity, but that how we can take this positivity here and overlap it, and to the point where, depending on how committed you are to these virtues, you can do away with these. If you just practice a little more these virtues. Okay? So that's it. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes,
For
ma'am.
number 5, when it comes to anger, what if you're angry about someone who had did something, but they've passed on? How do you get over the anger? If
You
you
know-
can't confront the person to just say, I'm upset with you because you said something, you did something.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that I do, Maria, when I do burials, or I do funeral services, I always bring this up for that exact same reason. You know, you'll have so many people at the funeral, at the viewing, and use the term "rest in peace," and it sounds great, but a lot of times we don't understand what we are hoping for. We're hoping for this individual to rest in peace. And so I always remind them, if there was something you didn't say, something that he didn't say to you, let it go and let God. Let it go and let God. Put it to an end, so that he may rest in peace and you may live in peace. Otherwise, what you cannot change will destroy you. Will destroy. So it's important that forgive it, let it go, because at the end of the day, hey, I go to confession. Who am I to deny forgiveness when I ask God to forgive me? And so and we hear it in the Our Father, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us, right? We say that. Who am I to deny forgiveness when I'm going to turn around and ask God to forgive me? And so I don't know whether or not that answers your question, Maria, but the only way that person's really going to rest in peace is if you allow your peace to touch him. Because he can't change what's in your heart anymore.
And then I have a question for number 6. You said that when a person wants to get, like, when they have the boat, but now they want like a house, and then they want like a bigger house. What if you are buying like multiple homes for investments? Does that apply to number 6?
Now you got to remember what we speak on in these, all 7 of these, is the behavior that's out of the norm. Okay, if you're working, and let's say you want to own 2 homes, you want to buy a property that will sustain you when you get older, and you no longer have a job, but you'll have rent coming in to help you. That's fine. What's not fine is if your children at home are hungry because you want to buy more stuff. If you, instead of enjoying life, find yourself working and working and working and working, to what end? To what end? Because then life is passing you by. You know, that's a story. And this is a story that I ran into. Wow, man, I said 15, 20 years ago. Young man is sitting on the beach watching the sail ships on at the horizon. And this man, who happens to be staying at the same hotel, sits next to him and says, "What are you doing?" He says, "Well, I'm looking at the fishermen out there on their ships." And he says, "Oh, you like fishing?" He says, yes, I'm a fisherman myself. I have a boat." And he says, "But why are you here?" He says, "Because I'm watching them over there." He says, "But you should be over there fishing with them. And you know what? If you spend more time fishing, you'll have more fish. And if you have more fish, you'll be able to sell the fish and you'll have more money." And he says, "And what do I do then?" He says, "Well, if you make more money, then you get to a point where you can buy a second boat." And he says, "And what do I do then?" He says, "Well, you fish more. And then you can put a captain, put a second crew. And what do I do then?" He says, "Well, then you can buy a third boat." And he says, "Man, 3 boats?" He says, "Yeah, but you got to keep fishing." And he says, "Okay." And then he says, "And what do I do when I have 4 boats?" He says, "Well, then you can go hire an accountant to manage the money, and you don't have to worry about the money. But then I got to keep fishing." He says, "Yeah, you got to keep fishing because then you can buy more boats." And he says, "Wow." He says, "And what do I do when I have a lot of boats?" He says, "Well, then you can sit down and relax." He says, "What do you think I'm doing now? What do you think I'm doing now?" You get to a point where you want more and 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 more. And we forget that, you know what? I was happy with what little I had. And now I got to feed this monkey. And I got to keep feeding the monkey because the monkey is hungry. I got to keep feeding the monkey. And it gets to a point, Maria, I can't tell you what's right or wrong. You're going to have to find that balance. The important thing is that you don't become overwhelmed with the desire to have, that you forget the desire to enjoy. Right? And that's the important thing. Yes, there's nothing wrong with acquiring, so the family will always have a place to stay. If my brothers and sisters don't have a home, I will be able to give them a home because I own that house. Yes, that's all good. But be careful, because there's a balance that you need to have. And all the church is trying to tell you is be aware of the balance. Be aware of this dash, that some point, if it goes like this, may be too much. If it goes like this, it's too much. You want to be able to stay and keep that balance. Okay? Any other questions?
Yes, I do.
Deacon,
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Flor. Go ahead.
No, it's I don't remember. Why did the church in general seem to have gotten rid of the confessional booth? That's what I grew up on, and I don't feel comfortable sitting face to face. I always have this high respect to the priest that to me, it's not, I have not gotten accustomed to that yet.
Yeah, Flor,
Although I have done it a few times.
And I don't know, I used to struggle with that too.
Mhm.
And I think that a lot had to do with pride for me, because I didn't want to admit who I was and what I have been. And I felt that little screen on the other side, it kept me from being known who I was and what I have been. Right? So
yeah.
I struggled with face-to-face confession for a long time. And I don't know if not I accepted or I just gave in. to that being the reality. But you know, I think that Pope Francis put it so well early on his pontificate. He said that, and he challenged the priests. He challenged the priests to be aware that they would make known that the moment of confession not to be a moment of condemnation, but rather a moment of healing.
Okay.
I came to understand that when I was able to speak through the priest to God, okay, and that's the important thing, that it is God who I'm speaking to. I understand His mercy, and I didn't have to fear not being known about what I had done.
Okay.
And so I'm able to accept the fact that, you know, I'm not perfect, and I'm working towards becoming a better human being, but God knows that I'm not perfect. And so I didn't need to hide in the confessional, and it had a lot to do with pride. I didn't want to be known for what I had done. I still wanted for people to think that I was what they didn't see. So I was able to overcome that. Yeah. But it's still because I'm from the old age, because I'm from the old ways, it still feels awkward. Okay?
Yeah.
So I tell you, I totally.
Apart from the proud, I also feel shame when I go into confession, because I know what I did that I should not have done. Something like that. Yeah.
The walk of shame. Yeah. So
yeah.
True. So true.
So there are instances I will always go look for a confessional booth. I know there's one at Jesu. There's one at Jesu. There's still some churches around that has that. Yeah. But sometimes I will go to that length.
You know, if you want to see, and this is so true. If you ever, that during this time of Lent, the priest will invite other priests to come and help them with confessions at every parish, and then we'll go over to theirs. Jose Luis and Father Sonny will go over to theirs to help them with confession. And so one of the things you'll see a lot more people go to confession with the visiting
with the not the parish priest. Yeah. Yes, I do the same. Yeah.
I used to do the same thing. I used to go on vacation, or when I went off on a seminar, I definitely go find a church, and I go find it won't work its way down to Miami, but that was the mentality that I had back then.
I always had that. Yeah. Well, hopefully, I'll get over it.
Yeah, you and me both.
But thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yamada, you have one?
Just to remind the books again.
Yeah. Listen, guys, when you come to Mass on Sunday, and I'm going to make it a point, go out the side door now. There's only one side door. See Yamar or myself, and we have these booklets that brought over from Little Flower, and they're great books for the Stations of the Cross and for Lent. So you're more than welcome to it. They're a gift. So I'd like to be able to give them out so that you guys can enjoy them during this time of Lent. Okay.
Oh, Chicken Tony. Now
Yes, ma'am.
that it seems like COVID is more relaxed now with their policies, are you gonna be doing the Station of the Cross at the Mother Church, like you used to do?
If you guys want me to, yes. But if you guys want to have it, be more than happy to. The problem is that a lot of times we initiate things for the English speaking community, and 2-3 people show up at that. So
it's not correct.
Yeah.
But the Spanish community they all, I know they are very compliant. They go and you do the Station of the Cross on, do you do it once a week or only during the Holy Week?
No, when the Stations of the Cross we do on Friday of Lent, every Friday. So if you guys want to, we can begin. Let's say 7 o'clock main church. We don't have to start tomorrow. We can start the following Friday. If you want to do that, we can do the Stations of the Cross in English. 7 o'clock at the main church.
Yeah.
If you guys want to do it, I'll be there, and we can do it together. It's great practice. It's a great meditation to be able to reflect on the Passion of Christ. So I'll be more than happy to be there. So next Friday, not this one, but the next one, I'll be there. 7 o'clock. We'll do the Stations of the Cross inside the church.
Okay.
Okay. I'll announce it at the 9 a.m. mass as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Anybody else? All right. The Lord be with you. May Almighty God bless you in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Go in peace, guys. We'll see you
Sunday.
Sunday.
God bless. Bye now.
Bye, Deacon.
Bye now.